So today I'm going to be looking at what is without a doubt the most complicated ninjutsu in the entire Naruto universe. Kuchiyose Edo Tensei, or Summoning Impure World Reincarnation, is an S-class forbidden technique created by Tobirama Senju and is a derivative of the summoning technique. The idea behind the jutsu is very simple. Its purpose is essentially to bring a dead person back to life. In execution though, it's a lot more complicated than that. As the name implies, and as I mentioned earlier, this technique is derived from the summoning jutsu, which means that the person being brought back to life has to be summoned to the world of the living. Now, I'll probably talk more about the details of the summoning technique in another video, but one of the key traits of the summoning technique that makes using it to bring someone back from the dead so complicated is the fact that generally, when a person or animal is summoned, they have to have a contract with their summoner. Obviously, you can't exactly discuss making one of these contracts with somebody who isn't alive, but luckily there's a workaround for that. In place of a summoning contract, a user of this technique needs a sample of the DNA of the person they wish to summon. The amount of DNA needed to revive a person isn't substantial at all and can be anything as small as a sample of that person's blood. The biggest issue a user of the technique will often run into is that a living sacrifice must be made in order to use it. Without a body to roam around in, the summoned soul can't really do much, so as Kabuto said, a living sacrifice is needed so that their body can be used as a vessel for the dead person being summoned. So once a person has gathered everything they need for the Impure World Reincarnation, the technique's ritual can begin. The ritual is very similar to rituals seen in standard summoning techniques, as it involves a scroll and the smearing of blood or DNA of some sort on that scroll. Once the summoner activates this scroll, the remains of the person used to summon them spread out in the form of a seal around the person being sacrificed, and this is where the magic happens. A bunch of dust and ash will cling to the sacrifice's body, at which point they are effectively turned into the person being summoned. Their personality, chakra, appearance, and anything else of the sort are all replaced by the revived persons, at which point the ritual is complete. From this point forward, the summoner has complete control over the person they revived. Now, initially, when Tobirama first created the technique, reanimated shinobi ended up being much weaker than they were when they were alive. Additionally, there was a cap on how many ninja Tobirama could control at any given time, and both of these flaws together significantly limited the potential of the technique. When Orochimaru mastered the technique, he did his best to make the flaws less significant, but it wasn't until Kabuto mastered the Edo Tensei that both flaws were eliminated completely. There's no limit to how many reanimated people Kabuto can control at any given time, and Kabuto's reanimated shinobi are much more powerful than Tobirama's were. Granted, Kabuto's reanimations are still slightly weaker than their living counterparts, but the issue is nowhere near as bad as it used to be. One drawback that no user of the technique has been able to get rid of is the fact that to reanimate a person, their soul has to be resting inside of the Pure Land, which is essentially the Naruto afterlife. Now, generally, everybody's soul goes there after they die, but there are some rare exceptions where this isn't the case. For example, Kabuto was not able to summon the first 4 Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village because each of their souls had been trapped inside of the belly of the Grim Reaper. Now, that said, the technique's flaws are offset by its many advantages. A user of the technique has control over every reanimated person they summon. The degree of control a summoner has over their reanimated shinobi is completely up to them as well. A reanimation's free will and personality can both be left intact, effectively allowing them to do whatever they want with no restrictions. Both the free will and personality of the reanimation can be completely eradicated, giving the summoner complete control over all of their actions. They can leave a person's personality intact but take away their free will, effectively putting them in a state where they are programmed to do as the summoner wishes but still have the same thoughts and feelings as they did while they were alive, and so on and so forth. Furthermore, reanimated shinobi will have access to every single ability they had when they were alive, even if those abilities are not originally theirs. For example, Nagato was revived with his Rinnegan intact, despite the fact that those Rinnegan belonged to Madara. What's even more surprising about that is that Kabuto revived Madara and Nagato at the same time, and both of them had access to their Rinnegan abilities. On top of that, reanimations have infinite chakra and can regenerate from any and all injuries. The only way to fully defeat a reanimated person is to seal them away or force the person who summoned them to release the Reanimation Jutsu. So with this technique, what you have access to is a potentially endless army of the most powerful shinobi in all of history who have been turned into immortal zombies with infinite chakra. They can even be left on autopilot so you don't have to do any work yourself. It goes without saying, but this technique is really hacks OP. Quite possibly the most broken ability in the entire Naruto universe. That said, it does have 2 crippling flaws. The first is that reanimations can still be affected by genjutsu. Now, at face value, this isn't too terrible, but with certain super powerful genjutsu, it's possible to turn a reanimated person against their summoner. For example, Itachi Uchiha used the Eye of Shisui Uchiha to cast a genjutsu on himself with Koto Amatsu Kami. This genjutsu forced Itachi to follow a single order, and that order was to protect the Hidden Leaf Village. This genjutsu completely cut off Kabuto's control over Itachi, and eventually led Itachi to fight Kabuto alongside his brother Sasuke. The two Uchiha brothers won the battle, and Itachi even ended up forcing Kabuto to release the Reanimation Jutsu. The technique's second crippling flaw is that if a summoned person knows the hand seals to Impure World Reincarnation, they can perform those hand seals to cut off their connection with their summoner. This gives them complete control over all of their actions and all of the bonuses of being a reanimated person. You know, being an immortal zombie with infinite chakra and all that. As Maru Uchiha said when he released the Reanimation Jutsu on himself, tell whoever the summoner is, he shouldn't use a forbidden technique so carelessly. But that's where I'm gonna wrap things up. I think I've touched on pretty much every base of the Reanimation Jutsu, though if I left anything out, feel free to ask any questions in the comments below. Like always, if you have anything you want me to talk about in the future, then just leave it down in the comments below, and if I like it enough, I'll get to it in a future video. Thank you guys for watching to the end. Hope you guys have a fantastic day, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Talk to you guys later, everybody. Swagkage out. Bye. Also, right, before I end the video, huge thanks and huge shout out to Mr. HD. He made me my new YouTube banner, and I'm a huge fan of it. If you want to check him out on Twitter or YouTube, I'll put a link to his channel and his Twitter in the description. He's really cool, he was super nice. If you need any graphics design work, hit him up. He won't charge you a whole lot, and he's super pleasant to work with. Thanks guys, bye.